Hello. So this is going to be the machinist-ui demo for the first release. So before we start, I would like to mention, I would like to explain what we tried to focus on for this first release was basically to get a minimally working system up and running where you can physically draw machines and you can put an input string in and run the input and see if it passes. So just to get the basic drawing right and to get the basic simulation code correct for running DFA simulations. So to start off, what we've got is a very simple web application. We've got a sidebar here. Most of these entries in the sidebar right now are placeholder menus. So this is kind of the idea of what the UI will look like eventually. We can expand the sidebar here for a better view. And the rest of the UI is just this canvas, this big canvas that takes up the whole screen. So you can draw a machine on this canvas. To start off with, we've got very simple controls, and we will expand on the user interface and the user experience in later releases. If I want to create a node, I can double click anywhere on the canvas. That will create a new node underneath my mouse cursor. Let's create another node. Now I've got two nodes in my machine. You'll notice that when I click on one node, that node becomes selected. When a node is selected, a small menu appears in the bottom right corner. This menu shows a little staging area for what the node looks like as you make modifications to it. The rest of the menu here has controls for tweaking this node. If I want to delete the node, I can press the delete button. I can toggle two Boolean values that are associated with the node. There's the start state value and the end state value. Start state indicates that this is the starting state for my DFA. The end state Boolean, that value indicates that this is an ending state. If I finish reading an input string and the machine has processed the whole thing and I land on an end state, then the simulation is complete and the input is accepted. Below that, we have a menu that displays the transitions. In this menu, all the transitions that are associated with this node will be listed. Also, I'll be able to modify the transitions, including the transition symbol. Let's have a look at deleting a node. I can select the node Q1, and if I press the delete button, the node disappears. Let's recreate that node. We double click and recreate Q1. You can see that switching between selected nodes is very simple and easy. The next thing we'll show is creating a transition. In the first release, the transitions are very simplified. So you can see that when I mouse over the corner of a node, there's a ring, a blue ring that circles the node. And if I mouse over that ring, a little pointer circle appears underneath my mouse cursor. If I press on this pointer, I can create a new transition. As I'm dragging this transition, we'll notice that the end of the transition is marked by a circle. This is a temporary UI element, just to indicate the direction of this arrow. In the next few releases, this circle will be changed to an actual arrow shape, and the transition will be styled to be more than just a straight line. But for now, this is enough interface to create a minimal DFA. So let's add this transition to Q1. So when I attach the transition to Q1, we see that there's a line and there's a circle again that indicates the end point of the transition. All these transitions are dynamically drawn on the screen as SVG elements. I can move around the nodes and the transitions will be adjusted appropriately. Let's add another transition on Q2. The next thing we'll show is changing the toggles for a state. So every DFA has to have a start state. Right now there are no start states in my machine, so this DFA won't run. If I click create a start state, a marker is attached to the state that I selected. The marker also moves with the state. I can make the state an end state. If I toggle the end state boolean, a secondary ring is going to appear around the state. Let's look at that again. I can toggle this end state, and it makes my node a little bit bigger with a double ring around it. The other UI element that we have in this menu are the transitions. The transitions that are listed here are all the transitions that are attached to this node, whether they're outgoing or incoming transitions. I can change the symbol of a transition by editing the field in this menu. Let's change the symbol for the Q0 to Q1 transition. By typing, the state of the machine is automatically updated, and we see that a label has appeared over top of the transition. This label also is dynamically adjusted when we move the transition, when we move the node. Let's add a label for this transition. So that's the UI for creating your graph. So one thing I want to show you also is how do we run inputs. In the first release, the focus isn't really on making a good UI for running inputs, but we do want to show off that functionality. So we have a modal dialog to demo running input strings. Before we run some input strings, let's create a DFA that accepts any string that has an odd number of A's in it. Let's just clear our canvas over here. So this DFA is going to have two states. Q0 is going to be a start state, and it's going to be an end state. Actually, it's going to be not an end state. So Q0 is our start state, and we're going to need to make a transition Q0 to Q1. Since it's a DFA, we're going to have a transition for every input symbol. Let's say that our alphabet is just A's and B's. So we'll make a self transition on Q0, and we'll make another transition back from Q1 to Q0, and then a self transition on Q1. So again, the UI is not perfect right now for indicating those changes that we made, but we can see that the transitions are created here. Let's add a Q0 to Q1 A transition, and then if we encounter a B, we don't move at all. Q1 to Q0 is an A, and then Q1 has a self transition for B values. So this machine, although it might be hard to tell because the UI is not fully there, but this machine accepts an odd number of A's. If we encounter a B on Q0, we don't move. If we encounter an A, we count it, and that goes to Q1. let's make Q1 an end state. On Q1, if we encounter a B, we stay. And if we encounter an A, we toggle back to not accepting the string. So basically, it counts A's and counts an odd number of A's. To run the input, we can hit the sidebar and open the temporary modal dialog for running input strings. So let's put a string that has an odd number of A's in it. If we hit submit, we'll see the string was accepted. And this is right now is just a raw response from the back end. The back end, what it's done is it's simulated this machine with that input string, and it says that we've gone from Q0, right? We took an A transition Q0 to Q1, then we took another A transition back to Q0. We have a B transition, so we didn't move from Q0, and then we had another A and brought us back to Q1. Since Q1 is an ending state, the string is accepted and the remaining input is empty. If we try to put another A in this string, our input will be rejected. The backend has simulated that input, and it knows that we didn't end on an ending state, although we did consume the entire input. That's all that we have to show for the UI for release 1.